guys, this is Corey Carnes. I think I'm going to change my YouTube channel name because I'm tired of the Friendly Grumpy Trucker. Anyway, this is Corey Carnes. I'm going to talk a little bit and give my input on what I believe is going to happen, or what, my opinion on the whole AB-5 bill that's being proposed, that passed in California and is possibly being proposed for the country. So I just want to give my input on that, and we'll get to that in a minute. Just got unloaded. Going home for the night. I love this dedicated stuff. That's scary. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and just go on home. I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow when it's daylight, and then probably when I'm getting loaded, I'll go over my opinion on this whole AB-5 crap and tell you my thoughts. So we'll see you tomorrow. But yeah, don't you worry, I'm going to talk about, like I said, the AB-5 bill. I do have my views on it. And, yeah, but you know what? I'm tired. And I want to make sure I have some coffee in me before I talk about it. So, in the morning, I got to go ahead and get up, take the daughter to school. And then I have to go get a new starter in the reefer. Starter started to go out on me today, so gotta go get a new starter in the reefer tomorrow morning. And like I said, I gotta get live loaded tomorrow morning. And probably talk about it then. Or maybe we'll talk about it while my starter's getting replaced. Who knows? Life is full of mysteries, right? So we'll just leave that one to be. Yeah, we maybe sort of bought a motorhome. I'm sure we'll talk about that sometime.
Dada, no 80 today.
No 80?
No,
What's
8.
What's 8?
8? 8?
8? Yeah, what'd you say? What?
8 means you have to walk on the 8 if you do something bad at recess.
Oh, okay.
So if you do something bad in classroom or anything bad, you at recess you have to walk on 8.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Let's go ahead and get in the Jeep.
Okay, Dada.
Yeah.
I dump. Ready? Go.
Didn't quite make it, but we're good.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right. What's that?
Butterfly.
Oh, cool. I love doing that. I love being able to take my daughter to school when I'm home. It's good times. I'm not home every day, but I'm home every other morning. And it's nice to be able to take... Oh, block that sun. It's nice to be able to take her to school when I'm home, you know? There's a better look at her. $31 feet. Well, about 32 feet, I guess. So here's our new toy. Got some antifreeze there, coolant for the, not coolant, but antifreeze for the winterization of this thing. Yeah. Just been cleaning it up since our last trip. Took a trip down to Florida with it. Nice big bunk up here. Put some seat covers on her to protect the factory leather. Factory leather's this color right here. Nice big refrigerator. Freezer, of course. Microwave, stove. The living area. Got a nice slide out with the crown molding up there. Got the Kinley's toys in here still, some of them. Something a lot of Class C's don't have. The auto leveling jack stands. See, they retract and they extend to level the camper.
You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig any?
Well, we got the other one in here now. What's up, bud? What's up, Caden? Gotta go to the post office. We're getting him his passport.
But I'm a little stronger now.
Alright, well, back to work I go. Back to the truck.
My promises, you know I'm too generous. Now I've learned to never help you out. 'Cause I'm done cleaning up your mess. Found myself in my regrets. I've become a little stronger now. A little stronger now.
finally to the meat and potatoes of this video. So anyway, the AB-5 bill that was passed in California that goes into effect, I believe, in January. I've heard that there's a possibility that it's been laid out at a federal level, not passed yet, but at a federal level to be looked at. And here is kind of my take on that. I can understand how they might be able to make it work in California because, well, California seems to be the bastion child of making horrible policies work, at least for them. I mean, not really work, but they put them into action, and then they later find out that it was a horrible idea. They do pretty good at implementing BS, so I'll give them that. But however, that's just one state. You know, that's one state in the entire country out of 50 states. You know, the 10th Amendment gives them that ability to do that. So, awesome. However, here's where I'm having issues seeing how it could possibly work at a national level, at a federal level. What this bill essentially does is it makes, you know, like it was mostly put into to practice to help Uber and Lyft drivers. You know, I guess people that don't understand that what they're getting themselves into, as far as putting their car on with somebody else and using their car technically under somebody else's authority, which would be Uber or Lyft, and using it as a ride share. You know, they don't understand that they are then responsible for some things that they would not have been responsible for otherwise had they been an employee somewhere. So, you know, they just didn't plan. They didn't think about that stuff. Anyway, how it affects the truck drivers is that now truck drivers in California will not be able to sign on under the authority of another carrier. The only way an owner-operator will be able to exist in California is to go out and get their own numbers, which is possible, but it just makes it harder on the owner-operator, especially an up-and-coming owner-operator that's still trying to take it step by step and learn the ways of trucking. You know, they start off as a company driver, then move up to maybe a lease purchase, with another company, and then eventually get their own numbers, or don't, whatever. I don't plan on getting my numbers anytime. I just don't have a desire to. I like being leased on to the company I'm at. However, that's what it does. It makes it impossible, it makes it impossible for them to lease on to a company. Now, what my question is, however, is, are the current owner-operators going to be grandfathered in? If they're going to be grandfathered in, I could see how the bill might work better, or how it might not be such a disaster. But if it's not grandfathered in, especially when you expand it to a macro level, when to the federal level, how is that going to work out? Because say that passes in the country, countrywide, nationwide, does that mean that somebody like myself is going to have to instantly run out and get my own numbers, or else forfeit my truck? And see, I lease my truck through a third party leaseor. I got my truck from a dealership. It's not through any company. I can take it wherever I want to. But it's a lease. I don't have a desire to flat out buy. I just wanted a lease. I like the tax incentive and stuff like that. But however, does that mean that anybody that doesn't want to go out and get their own numbers is going to have to give their truck back to a third party leaseor, or to, like, say they did finance their truck, and they don't want to get their numbers, so do they have to basically forfeit their truck back to the dealership? Is it going to then affect their credit? What are all these financial institutes going to do when they are caught by the balls with an influx of trucks that people can't use anymore because they don't have their numbers? I mean, there seems to be a lot of nuance that is not being talked about with this AB-5 bill, because if it really is as dire as everybody makes it out to be, then you're instantly going to be out of business as an owner-operator, leased onto another company, which means you're going to have to give your truck back. But if you don't have to give your truck back, here's the flip side. You're still going to have to make the same amount of money, whether you're considered to be an employee or a 1099 contractor. So you're still going to, because, I mean, the company isn't going to, if you're paying for your truck, the company still isn't going to be paying for all of your maintenance and your, you know, your bills for your truck and your payments, and, you know, they're not going to do that. So they're going to have to keep paying you the same amount if they don't expect this new bill to force you to turn your truck in back to whoever loaned you the money for the truck in the first place. You know, and it's completely different for the people that are actually doing like a lease with a company, and they're getting the truck from the company that they lease to, because that company owns the truck already anyway. You know, they'll just give the truck back to the company, their walkaway leases as it is. So bada bing, bada boom, their company has their trucks back. They can turn them into company trucks then. You know, it really doesn't hurt them one way or the other. But like I said, what it's going to really hurt are the third-party institutes, where people go to a dealer and then they lease a truck from a dealership via one of these institutes. Because that means, like I said, I mean, we're going to have to give the trucks back, unless we want to go out and get our own numbers. Not everybody wants to go out and get their own numbers. So it's going to really put a huge bind, if that's the case. So I can't see that being the case. I could be wrong. I mean, our government's not exactly the brightest bulb out there. So, you know, they may not, I mean, I'd like to think that they would have thought about that stuff, but I mean, if they try to implement it like they tried to implement Obamacare, or the AC, you know, whatever you want to call it, that want to be politically correct about it, the Affordable Care Act, if they implement it like that, it's going to be a disaster. You know, this is one of the largest industries out here as far as contractors go. You know, so there will be, I mean, there's already, if you drive by any truck dealer right now, because of the way rates are, and, you know, the so-called trucking recession, you can drive by dealerships, and dealerships are packed full with brand new trucks and used trucks that have been either repoed or had their orders canceled when it was too late to cancel the order at the factory. So these dealers have a ton of brand new trucks for sale right now. And, you know, like, I'll drive by a dealership that normally may only have 4 or 5 trucks out front, and they have to utilize their field and fill their field with trucks, because their parking lot isn't even big enough for all the trucks now. So what's going to happen then, you know, when the same thing happens, if the same thing happens with the AB-5 bill, or whatever they want to call it at the national level, what would happen? It would be disastrous. It would have such a ripple effect, not just within the trucking companies, but like I said, it would ripple out to the loaning institutes and to the leasing institutes, the third party leasing institutes. It would be that would be the real recession right there. I got a feeling, because it might cripple a lot of the smaller institutes, because they're not going to be getting their money. You know, I'm not smart enough to really go into too much depth on the topic, really. You know, I mean, I'm just not, obviously. But I know that it would have a, you know, horrible effect if they didn't think about those nuances when they proposed such a bill. Like I said, I could see it not being as disastrous in a state, but, you know, such as California, and that, I'm not saying that to dog on California. I'm just saying there's a reason that the 10th Amendment was implemented. It was because there are certain things that the states can do that make sense at a state level that doesn't make sense at a federal level, or a city level for that matter, municipal level. So, it makes sense for a state to be able to do it. I don't agree with it, but it would make sense that a state could implement it and see possible success. I don't see how necessarily in this, instance, but it'd be a lot easier to notice success from a state than it would be at the federal level, because there's just such a vast amount of differences from state to state to state. And again, we've got something like 2.5 million drivers, 2.5 million truck drivers in this country. I don't know how many of those are owner operators / 1099 contractors, but quite a few. I'd be willing to venture probably more than half. Well, I'm sure more than half. Because even the mega carriers, with all of their company drivers, they are not, despite what a lot of people want to make you think, they are not the majority. They really aren't. They just have a grasp because they can afford to have a grasp on, on certain political leanings, so to speak. So they have the power to make more changes than individual owner operators, but they don't have the majority when it comes to drivers on the roads. So it'd be devastating. It'd be absolutely devastating. But anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about, because I don't know how that would work. I really don't. Like I said, there's so many nuances that I would hope that they would have taken into account. And I'd like to say that they did. I'd like to have enough faith in our government to say, sure, they took it into account. But again, when they have big bills like this, they rarely take the nuances into account. Which is why so many people, when the ACA was passed, lost their health insurance when they were promised that they wouldn't. And you can argue, I'm not trying to make this political per se. You can argue that it's the insurance companies were just taking advantage of the new rules on the ACA, so they dumped some of their good customers, or you can say that it was the ACA. You can say that it was just the ACA being poorly written. Whatever you want to say, I don't care. The point is, stuff was done. It wasn't thought out right, well enough to protect certain individuals. And, I've got a feeling it's going to be the same way with the AB-5 at the national level. But time will tell. So, anyways, that's all I really wanted to say right now. I'm just getting into the realm of beating a dead horse. But I'm getting loaded right now. And then we're going to be heading out. So, oh, hang on. Do I have a green light now? Hang on. No. All right, well, anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to say for right now. We'll talk to you guys later.